What's up, guys? So I won a Pokemon League Cup with Ancient Box, a deck you might not be super familiar with. I'm going to run through the deck a little bit for you guys, talk through my tournament report, and tell you guys how I won another 50 championship points to add to my World Championship total, putting me at over 1,200 championship points, a solid #1 in North America currently. And I'm vying for that stipend that everyone also wants for the North American International Championships. Had a cup today as well. I was going to play this again, but I overslept, so I'm just going to do the video now because I just woke up a little bit late. Sorry. I meant to get it out earlier, but yeah, all that. So Ancient Box basically is a deck that relies on this guy. What did I do? This guy, Roaring Moon. What he does is basically 70 plus 10 for each ancient card in your discard pile. For 2 dark energies, it's the main attacker of your deck. It ramps up technically infinitely to the number of ancient cards we do have. There's a couple other ancient Pokemon in here that are attackers. The Fluttermane is a great opener and also just really good to like pivot and have as another discard fodder. Great Tusk is cute as a 2 of because you can use Lance Collapse, especially in best of 1. You can kind of cheese some matchups where if you open Great Tusk or your opponent has a little bit of a slower start, you could even go into the Great Tusk and just start milling your opponent in matchups like Charizard where you don't really want to attack them. And Charizard, you don't want to give them the damage early, so if you can booster capsule some guys, force them to find their Dusknoir lines, and you can Great Tusk early and get rid of the resources, they have a finite amount of stuff, so you can kind of cheese them out of that. There's 2 Crydons with the Unrelenting Onslaught, 30 plus 150 for if an ancient Pokemon attack last turn. So basically this is good for just doing a big 180 instantly, having the option to one-shot any lightning type Pokemon or colorless type Pokemon, so Thorns and Terrapagos in the format, most importantly. And also 180 is just a pretty good number to clean up after you hit like something for like 110 or 120 with Roaring Moon, if that does happen. Radiant Greninja is the lifeblood of the deck. You kind of just need this to cycle through your deck pretty quickly. Like, it's literally just the best card in the deck, I think, by far. You need it to keep getting enters in the discard, seeing more cards, fueling your Sadas, etc. There's Petrant EX as well, which has Subjugating Chains. Really good for just getting a little guy into the active, don't get stuck, stranded, whatever. Because sometimes your opponent can be like, oh, you have energy spread out, you might not be able to attack. So you can move your guy into the active and go from that route. But also really good into things like Block, Lax, and Control. You just basically have auto wins in those situations. Iron Bundle also really good if you can't knock out the big threat in the active spot. Sometimes it's just better to take a single prize card to keep the race going. 4 Guidance, 4 Sadas, just your main supporters. 1 Boss, 4 Gear. You gotta find your supporters when you need them, so you need the 4 Gear. 4 Vessel, just 4 ancient cards as well as finding your energies. 4 Nest Ball, everything is a basic. It's really easy to find stuff. 2 Stretcher, kind of synergizes super well with Pokestop. Can just start aggressively hitting the Pokestop no matter what you need to do, so Moons get to discard. 2 Counter Catchers. You're probably going to be behind for a majority of the game. And you just need to take like 1 or 2 prize knockouts at some point. So Counter Catcher is like one of your best allies. The boss is like the final like nail in the coffin sometimes if you need to take 2 prize knockouts in a row. 2 Ultra Ball, just more discard fodder. Palpad, because you are going to be Pokestopping quite aggressively. Brilliant Blender as the ace spec lets you take any 5 cards from your deck and put them in your discard pile. Now Blender is a little bit better than Secret Box because Secret Box you need to have cards in your hand to play. And so you need to be discarding resources from your hand as well as getting resources out of your deck and putting them back in your hand. But Brilliant Blender is just a vanilla, I'm going to slam this card and put a ton of like, my Great Tusks are in my deck, my Fluttermans are in my deck, I don't need these cards anymore, I don't need these Vessels anymore, let me just get rid of all these dead cards in my deck, and now my odds of hitting something off of Gear or my odds of hitting something off of Pokestop are incredibly better to close out games. And so it's just another card to thin out your deck, which I really like, thinning out your deck as opposed to playing Secret Box and needing a primary requirement as well in your opening hand. Superior Energy Retrieval and Super Auto are just 2 more ways to get stuff back, and SCR is another way to discard cards out of your hand, so it can help you ramp damage pretty quickly. I put in a Biting Mochi because I thought Mochi would be pretty cool as a synergistic card with Petrant. You guys, I'll talk about it in a second, but like the card didn't actually do anything throughout the tournament. But the idea was like if against stuff like Charizard or Drago or something, you need to take that 280 HP knockout, and being able to go Mochi and doing that can put you in a really good spot early because your opponent's like, oh, you can't hit those certain numbers, but now you get a plus 40 by putting Petrant and Mochi into play, and that could be the plus 40 you need to win the game, you know? I put 1 Dark Patch in as well because I felt like Dark Patch is a really good card at shoring up your board in the late game when you're like, oh, I need a boss this turn, but I don't have an energy on board on my benched Moon. Let me Dark Patch attached to the benched Moon. Now I have an energy on my benched Moon. My active Moon is ready to attack, and I have a boss's orders I can use this turn. Now my board is completely, basically checkmated if I find an energy next turn, or I find a way to get to an energy next turn. Dark Patch was a cute card. I didn't really use it too much, but it was good. 4 Ancient Booster Capsule, another Ancient card, plus 60 HP is pretty good. 2 Pokestop as well, just to get through your deck pretty quickly, and 7 basic Dark Energy. So, head to my League Cup. Recently, my locals have been switching their decks to Thorns, and Thorns Pult basically specifically to counter me because I'm a Lugia player. And for the second week in a row, I've had multiple people basically be like, I was hoping you'd be on Lugia, which, like, I guess you guys think it's, like, funny banter and stuff, and if you're watching this video, it's not like a call-out, I'm not going to name names, but, like, it's just really annoying to hear that, because it's like, I'm just a guy coming to play a cup and get my points and do my thing, and you guys are just like, I really hope you were playing Lugia because I'm playing your auto-loss matchup. Like, I was hoping you would do this so I could beat you. And that's like, you know, like, you could keep that to yourself. It's, like, a great thing to say, but, you know, just next time, don't share that information with me. It's just going to make me upset. You know, like, why would you say that? So anyway, round one, I end up hitting Decklist. He's playing Ceruledge, and that's one of my better matchups because we both are going to keep the Pokestop and play it the entire game. Ceruledge is a 2-prize attacking deck, so basically at some point I'm going to two-shot a 2-prizer in the trade, probably one-shot it at some point, and then if he plays Briar, that's the only thing that's a little bit concerning. But I was able to take knockouts pretty early. He took the first knockout. I was able to counter-catch the Squawkabilly, take a knockout there. But then I ended up whiffing the KO on the Ceruledge and hit it for like 240. He was knocked out my active. I knocked out the Ceruledge again, went down to 2 prize cards. He was at 3, but my board didn't have any 2-prizers on it, which meant that he couldn't even Briar and take the KO this turn. If he had Briar, this would have been the turn 2 Briar, I think, to just get the knockout and go down to 1 and put me on a clock. But he didn't even have the Briar, so he just took a knockout there, and I was able to just knock out the Ceruledge because I had enough damage. So, all in all, pretty easy matchup. The scariest part about playing Ancient Box is your turns 1, 2, and your turns 1 and 2 are like really spooky because you need to draw cards and get to pieces. But if you don't find your pieces, or like for example, like you can find Sada, but you can't get energy in the discard, like stuff like that. If you don't find your early pieces and your early things in the right order, the game could just be over pretty quickly because your deck just doesn't have that consistency that other decks do, the engine that other decks do. Round 2, I end up going up against Lugia. No, round 2 was Chien-Pao. It was Chien-Pao. And Chien-Pao, I think, is also a pretty good matchup. Chad knows how to play the matchup, and Chad decides to go for the Greninja line. But as soon as he goes for the Greninja line, I was holding my tools, so I just attached the tools to where they need to be, start taking the knockouts where I need to take knockouts. I counter-captured a Bidoof early after the first Chien-Pao knockout because I could just take out that prize and put myself in a better spot to like make sure that the Barrel doesn't come into play and give Chad a bunch of cards. Eventually, the Barrel does come into play, but I was able to buy enough time to the point where he couldn't chain Greninjas and stuff properly. And once I have the booster capsules on the board, it makes it so your Greninja play isn't even like viable because now you have to Greninja 3 times to take 2 knockouts, which is just really bad. Like if you can Greninja 2 times to take 2 knockouts, it's like you're trading even basically, and you can end the game with hands if you have that, or you can build like a Palkia for the late game, gust up something and try to stall it. He was able to try to gust up a Moon and stall it with a Prime Catcher, but I did have the Sada in hand with the energy attachment to respond. Didn't have to bench the Petrant there, which is the one thing I was afraid of having to do. And I ended up winning the game pretty handedly. Round 3 was Lugia. It was Ian. Ian was playing just a stock standard Lugia, something similar to Kieran's list with the 2/2 Chinchino. I get to go. I lost the flip, by the way, every single time. And this game, I end up getting the turn 1 attack with Moon for 120. He attacks, takes out my Moon. I go into the knockout onto the Lugia. He sets up another Lugia. Knocks out my Moon. I have the boss's orders this turn. I end up bossing up like the Warrior, I think, and knocking it out with Koraidon with Unrelenting Onslaught. Then my Koraidon goes down. He opts to go back into Lugia, take a knockout, and I get the one-shot this turn with my Roaring Moon. I'm able to just basically turbo through my deck. I had the Blender available. I get down to like a 1-card deck or a 2-card deck, but I had the Rod in hand, and I had Palpad in hand. So like even if I go down to those low cards, like that's kind of where the deck wants to be, because then you get to put exactly what you want back in your deck and like basically like set it that way. So now I'm 3-0. It's a 5-round cup, so I'm able to double ID in the top 8. So I take my ID and ID into the next 2 players. Go get some quick lunch, come back, top 8 again. It's Ian once more. It's Lugia again. He wins the flip. He has a pretty poor setup this time around. I think he went like Warrior Pass or something. I end up setting up my board. He doesn't do too much. I end up knocking out the Warrior. Oh no, he goes into Lugia. I end up hitting the Lugia. He knocks me out with Lugia. I kill the Lugia. Similar story as game 2, or during our Swiss game, and then the next game he bricks a little bit, goes into the Chinchinos this time. He's able to actually set up Chinchinos and set up attackers, but in this position, he ends up running out of energy. Like he's down to, like I already count 15 energy are gone, and he benches the bear preemptively, so I just gust up the bear and kill it with Koraidon, with counter catcher. which I don't know if that was like a mistake. I think he had to do it anyway because if I kill the Chinchino, then he has no energy or pivot. So it's like you have to kind of bench the bear because either his 16th energy is in deck or prizes, which then becomes his last energy. And then once he attaches and retreats with the 16th energy, I just am going to gust something up and pass at that point because I know that Lugia only typically pays 16. So once the 16 energy are gone, it's the game over basically. I had to squawk 4, I think, turn 1. So I end up knocking out the bear, and then the Chinchino comes up, takes a knockout. I knock out the Chinchino. There's no more energy left. Game ends. I mean, I had the gust, but just knock out the Chinchino. Game ends. So now we're going to top 4 up against Thorns. Paul. This is one of the players who was like, I was really hoping you would play Lugia. You know, just one of those things where it's like, just don't say that. Really appreciate it next time. Flips over Dreepy. I pop off turn. I win the flip, and I elect second in this matchup because I think that the Thorns Pult deck really likes going second and getting the Arven and the Evo and everything up and running, and it's just really scary if they do all that because Ancient Box is also a pretty slow deck at ramping up damage, so it's like a pretty low chance that I can actually do anything with my turn 2 knockout or like turn 2 damage. And turn 2 damage, like maybe swinging into a Dreepy isn't actually going to do anything if he gets 2 Dracloaks on board, because then Crispin into Dragapult means that he can start cleaning up my board pretty efficiently. And I end up getting the Donk on the Dreepy because he goes attach Dreepy Pass. And then game 2, he elects to go first again. Same exact situation, attach Dreepy Pass, which I think he should have elected second, and then I just knock him out again, which I was just like, okay, cool, sick. Double Donk, going to finals. Finals up my buddy Calvin. Calvin is playing Raging Bolt. Matchup is super favored for me. Both games go pretty much the same way. I just set up, and at some point, Calvin did play Briar, so he could end up getting to that position where he could take those 2 prize cards at the very end of the game. But the problem is that every single thing in Calvin's deck is worth 2 prizes besides the Slither Ring, so I just am able to just slowly chip away at those 2 prizes, like the 2 10s on the bench. I'm able to take out the Squawk ability early on, and that ends up winning me my League Cup. So that puts me at a hefty 1,200 points, like I mentioned earlier. Number 1 in NA still. Thank you guys for watching. I don't know if I'll have another cup report or anything coming up soon. I think I will be heading to Birmingham. I think that'll be my next tournament, or San Antonio. It's one of the two. So stay tuned. We'll have more tournament reports as always. Thank you guys who always watch these things. I hope you guys learned some stuff from my plays. I try to talk about them. Maybe I'm going a little bit too fast. Maybe I'm not, but I think it's hopefully helpful for you guys. So thank you so much. Peace.